Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brew. This morning I would like to talk to you about some things that we have, some friends and I have learned from reading the book of Ruth. And so two things struck me as soon as we began to read, and so I wanted to read those this morning. It is Ruth chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, and it says this: "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Euphratites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there." And so I just got to thinking about the word Bethlehem means the house of bread. And in the house of bread, they were suffering from a famine. And so obviously that was affecting Elimelech and Naomi, and they were concerned for their family. So Elimelech and Naomi made a decision to move to Moab, which is interesting in and of itself. We know that the nation Moab, the Moabites, come from an incestuous relationship between Lot and his daughter. And so because of that, God had said to the Israelites, do not go there and do not marry the people from Moab. So it's interesting to me that Elimelech gets up with Naomi and his 2 boys, and they move to this place that God has told them not to go. And so it made me think about some of the choices and decisions that I had made as a younger woman. And I know that when I was young, I did not do some things that would have helped me to make some better choices. So one of the things that I've learned that God says to us about making choices is when we don't know what God is asking us to do, He tells us to be still. And you can find that in Psalms 46:10. It says this: He said, "Cease striving and know that I am God." That's in my NLT, the New Living Translation. And so I was kind of struck by the word striving. So I looked up the word striving, and it said basically to be in the act of making something happen. And for a big part of my life, I was a make it happen kind of girl. I did whatever it took. And I would be halfway down the road of a decision that I made before I understood, oh my gosh, maybe I should not have gone this way. So as I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Elimelech and Naomi and how they were not still, because we know that God didn't tell them to go to Moab. He had told them exactly the opposite. So one of the things that I was thinking about was in Proverbs, and it is Proverbs 14:12, I think. Yes, Proverbs 14:12, and it says this: "There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death." And the sadness of the story is that not long after Elimelech and Naomi get to Moab, Elimelech dies. And then sometime later, both of the sons die. And so that leaves Naomi and her 2 daughter-in-laws in a very precarious state, because in that day and age, a woman without a man oftentimes was left outside of the city where the scoundrels of that day lived. And so it was a very dangerous situation for a woman. So they had thought that they were right, I'm sure, when they left Bethlehem and went to Moab. But some very drastic things happened to them as a result of their moving. And then I thought about how God has also given us provision when we are making decisions. And here's the verse that I wanted to talk about in that regard. In Proverbs 15:22, this is what we see. it says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. I am sure that Elimelech and Naomi had people who were willing to speak wisdom into their situation. They were from Bethlehem. We know that there were kin in Bethlehem to Naomi and to Elimelech. And so a lot of times when we're making a decision, it is good for us to see the people that God has put in our lives to help us when we have something we feel is really important and we need to work on or make a decision over. We have our pastor and his wife. We have our connection group. We have Christian men and women that we work with. And so God has provided for us a way to do what his scripture says every time. And so he tells us that our plans fail when we don't seek wise counsel, but they succeed when we do. So I just really was encouraged by that. And then the last scripture that I wanted to share with you this morning is one of my absolute favorites. And I have a girlfriend who she and her family are using this scripture as their memory verse for this week while we all fast and pray. And so it really was cool when she and I talked about it this morning. So the scripture that I'm talking about is Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. And it says this: lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and he will make your path straight. I have an NIV Bible that says, lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and he will guide your steps. And so that is a promise that he has given us. He will make the way straight when we don't lean on our own ability, when we don't lean on other things that are not going to take us to the place that God would have us to go. So when I am in a place where I just don't know what to do and I have a decision that I need to make, I say to the Lord in prayer, Father, you have promised that if I don't lean on my own understanding and if I acknowledge you in all of my ways, that you are going to guide my steps. You are going to make my path straight. And so I have a vision in my head when I'm doing that of God having his holy hands wrapped around my ankles. And he is saying, step here, Rebecca. Step here, Rebecca. And here. And here. And so when I am able to be still, when I'm able to stop striving to make something happen in my own strength, God has given me and you and all of us a promise that if we can just lean on him, if we will admit that we don't have an understanding of what's going on and that we acknowledge him in all that we do, he's going to do his part. He's always going to do his part. And so we can always trust that. So I hope that you have gained something this morning from listening. I know that I am just so blessed to have the opportunity to do this. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. God bless you.